I have like 10 different sets. Okay, this should be Michael Church and Eric Prichard making their way, and they're presenters for their high school coach, Dave Nigg, who might surprise me tonight, and he is like Mr. Jackson, very humble, and they don't speak. But guys, here you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Well, I'll start out, and then I'm going to hand it over to Coach Church over here. 1978, Nigg was an assistant at South High. The head coach at the time, Steve Anderson's in the back. He was the head coach at South. And that year they won the state title, 1978. And then after that year, Steve retired or resigned, and Coach Nigg took over at South High, 1978. From there, Coach Nigg had 71 state finalists. 38 of them were state champs. 134 state medals he coached. And that was, I mean, some of you old guys remember this, that was before they had 5th and 6th places. That was just 1 through 4. He probably would have had, a ton more with 5th and 6th. He had a dual record of 185 wins, 40 losses, and 4 ties. And also he had, several coaches that he Coach of the Year awards and the Wichita City League. 5 times his team were the state runner-up. 2 times they were the 3rd place, and then 5 times they finished 4th in the state. Now, Coach Nigg reminds me a lot of Coach Jackson. Been around the sports forever, and as a wrestler, the weekends. It's a grind. It's a 4-month grind. You have to pull your weight. You have to hold your weight. And then you get out there and you perform, and you have nobody to pass the ball to, nobody to make the block for you. You're out there on your own by yourself. And as a high school kid, you get stressed out and you get nervous. But the one thing, when I grew up wrestling for Coach Nigg, is that every weekend was fun. I mean, it was every Saturday, up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you make your way, you jump on the old bus, and we head to the tournament. Every weekend, it was just a fun event. I mean, it was just fun. Now, I'm going to make mine short, but I'll never forget. I'm the head coach at Wichita Northwest, and I'm lucky enough now to have Coach Nigg as my assistant coach. And he's retired. He doesn't teach anymore, but he's a substitute at Northwest. And I was talking to him, hey, you're going to the Hall of Fame. And he kind of, he laughed it off. And I'll never forget what he said. He goes, usually you have to be dead to get in those things. And I'm still living. So it was a pretty funny and good moment. Coach Nigg, he's always got the one-liners, and you never want to get in too much of an argument with him, and he's going to get you. I enjoyed my time with him, and he's one of the main reasons why we've been successful at Northwest. And I thank him. He's very deserving of this, and I'll just hand it over to Coach Church now.
And I'll try to be faster than that. First of all, I have to be faster. Just Coach Nigg said if I talked more than 2 minutes, he was leaving. So real quick, I'll talk about my first time I ever met Coach Nigg. I was in the 8th grade. It was French University, and it was a wrestling tournament. And my kids club coach then said, hey, this is the guy you're going to wrestle for next year. And I look up, and it's this, he wasn't as gray-headed as he is now, but he was peppered out. And he had an eye patch on. And I looked at him, and I'm looking at this one-eyed guy, and I'm like, what? And I said, what happened to your eye? And he was out rustling cattle around, and his brother hit him in the eye with a bullwhip. I said, and you're here today? And he was like, yep. That's what you don't want to wrestle for. Just a tough old sucker like that. And that's what he turned out to be. But what I found out after I got to know that tough old sucker was how humble he was. He doesn't want to be here. He never wanted recognition. He never desired to win the Coach of the Year award. He never desired to do anything for David Nigg. It was all for other people. He was what I call the epitome of a servant leader. He was willing to get his hands dirty. He was willing to grind. He was willing to do all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do. And to me, that was my inspiration when I went into coaching. I hope at some point in my coaching career I can wind up half the servant leader that he was over our lives. How many people he's helped, how many people he's just mentored, worked with, and now how many people when I run into an old guy from back in the day, the first thing they ask is, how's Coach Nigg doing? And I get to say, he's still reading, and that's cool. I remember, I'll tell a couple quick stories. I remember we were at the state tournament in 1995, and we were making a run at it. Obviously, we got clipped in the end, but I said, Coach Nigg, what's the team score? And his exact answer was, hell, I don't know. Go ask my mom. His mom was epitome for it. She took the score. She hand scored everything. She had a book that was detailed, and so when the computers were wrong, she was right. And I believe that she needed some recognition tonight too, because she's probably 90% of the reason he turned out how he did, and the reason that he's here right now is definitely his mother. So definitely it was great to know her, and he's right. Go ask his mom. What he also realized is the program was the biggest thing. There was nothing bigger than the program. Without the program, there was no Coach Nigg. There was no wrestlers. There was nothing but the program first, and he did everything he could to put the program in front of everything else in his life. And I hope at some point, like I said, that as a coach, that we can all sink that in and realize that there's nothing bigger than wrestling. There's nothing bigger than the program. Because without it, we're all not sitting here. We're doing something different, and our character is not as good as it is today. Lastly, Coach Nigg coached in an environment that was a little bit different than today. There were red bellies. People got their bellies hit and slapped. It happened. There were blue noses. People's noses got rubbed raw until it turned blue. People cut weight. They don't do that no more. It was a different style of culture in the sport. Some bad, some good, but all awesome. In the end, what I do remember about Coach Nigg is he had a bowling pin. And this bowling pin that he carried around, if you got out of line, I don't think it ever came to practice, but it was around it. And if you got a little silly, you got hit with that bowling pin. You got out of line, you got a detention, or you got crossways with a teacher, you got hit with that bowling pin. What would probably get him fired now built character back then. And definitely one of the greatest memories of my life is the way that he was able to instill that character in us, whether it be through his great personality or his bowling pin. When I left Wichita South High, I was the head wrestling coach, and he was my assistant in his last couple of years. When I left there, I grabbed that bowling pin. He didn't know I grabbed that bowling pin, but I grabbed that bowling pin. And I said, the next time he gets this, it's either his funeral or the Hall of Fame. I'm glad it's the Hall of Fame, and I get to hand it back to him. But this bowling pin has got a lot of history to it. If you got hit with it, your name is scratched in on it. I've had it for 10 years, and I'm glad I get to give it back to him. So give it up for Coach David Nigg. This is not the shortest speech of the night.
Promises. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't hitting, his attitude adjusted. Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Prichard. He was my coach. He did a wonderful job, and he was such a class act and really made a difference. I'd like to thank Steve Anderson for giving me the first chance. It was,
Don't do it.
I appreciate it. I had so many good coaches all the way through. This is tough. I had so many good coaches and so many good kids. And I want to really thank both people. It was these guys and the kids really made a difference. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank my wife and family. They were very important to me. Thank you.
Heather will make the presentation. Michael, will you take that? And Michael and Eric, would you give this to Coach? I want to tell a story about Coach. I have stories about all these guys. This one I want to tell. Heather's doing an internship with me, and we're at the Nigg tournament. And Coach will not give me any Bible. He will not talk to me. And I go, can I at least nominate you? And he said, oh, get away from me, I got work to do. And so I said, well, Heather is doing an internship and she needs to do this to pass. He said, okay. He gave her all the information, all the titles, everything in the world. So, Coach, we love you. Coach Nigg.